Oh, hey, today we're checking out the best multiplayer shooter on Quest. This is Contractors Showdown, the brand new 60-player Battle Royale VR game. And today we're taking a deep dive into the game to see why I think this is not just the best multiplayer shooter on Quest, but maybe the best shooter period. Let's go check it out. Special thank you to the developer for supporting the channel and sponsoring today's video. Before we dive in, starting today, you can play solo mode through the weekend in this limited time pop-up event beta. The developers have heard the community, so don't forget to jump in this weekend for the beta for solo mode. So what actually makes Contractors Showdown the best online shooter for Quest? Maybe it's the 60-player Battle Royale style matches on a massive island and pretty much always jam-packed full games with plenty of players? Or maybe it's the fact that there are no microtransactions. That's right, no microtransactions, but tons of unlockables, with rotating unlockables, if I might add, and you earn coins and money to buy them playing the game. No microtransactions is huge for a game like this. Yet the game rewards you for continually playing and leveling up, and you want to earn those skins and unlockables, and to do that, you gotta do what everyone wants to do anyways, play the game. But in all honesty, it's not either of those things. It's a ton of things that work together to make a cohesive, really well thought out, and great experience. An experience built from the ground up for VR as a Battle Royale game with thoughtful design and amazing gameplay. Let's talk about what that gameplay includes and why I'm such a big fan of it in the first place. First, let's talk about the game's mechanics. The game feels really good. Contractors has long been known as my online favorite shooter on Quest or in VR in general. And Contractors Showdown takes everything from the original Contractors and does it even better and expands upon it. Everything from the movement, whether you're running and sliding or you're jumping off of a building and gliding with your parachute, which feels really intuitive, by the way, even down to the design elements of the UI, where you reach down for a pouch and it actually gives you a visual representation of what your hand is resting on to grab, whether it's a magazine, an item, or your pad on your chest that allows you to ping stuff and look at your map. But we'll talk more about that in just a minute. The general game design of Contractors Showdown is so well thought out that it feels intuitive most of the time. Vaulting through windows, grabbing the weapon from one of the weapon slots, even looting in the game is really cool, but again, we'll talk about that as we get into more about the gameplay. One of my favorite aspects of the game to start is actually the main home lobby, where you'll spend at least the first moments of jumping into the game. This lobby has a whole bunch of things that you can experiment with and different ways that you can actually test out the game's mechanics. Everything from zip lining to shooting dummies, testing all of the different weapons and attachments, all of the different items you'll use, whether it's a gauze bandage or a health shot or whatever it is, you can test all of those mechanics in your home environment before even having to jump into a game. Even the kiosks that you'll find, whether it's buying insurance, ammo, whatever, weapons, you can do that in this lobby area so that you can get used to it before jumping in. Now, there's also a tutorial that you'll go through that teaches you everything as well, but it's great to have all this in the lobby as a refresher or just to experiment so you don't jump blind into a full-on match. Speaking of jumping into a match, when you actually activate matchmaking, it allows you to do stuff in your home environment. So a lot of times I'll jump in, start matchmaking, and then I'll go and check out what's new on the store that you can buy or see what I have for unlockables that I've unlocked, etc. Now, I'll talk more about what you can get for unlockables and how you get them a little bit later, but the station that you're going to use to unlock those unlockables is right in your home, and those are called chips. You're going to find those on the battlefield. There are 3 different rarities coded by color. You'll collect these in the battlefield and you'll place them into the computer pad on your chest, and that'll decode as you're playing. Now, it takes time to decode, so you'll be able to decode it the longer that you last in a match. Obviously, the rarity depends on how long it takes to decode. And once it's been sent to your home, you'll be able to go to the computer and decode it in your home area. This gives you different items or money to spend in the store. This allows you to collect points to buy unlockables like skins, pendants, character skins, a whole bunch of different things. And like I said, those do rotate. They're not always the same. So as they rotate, you'll have new unlockables to try to attain. This to me is one of the most brilliant parts of the game because it takes what most games use as microtransactions and turns them into gameplay transactions, essentially requiring you to continually level and play and get better to unlock the things that you want to unlock. Now, the way the game works, just like any other battle royale, is you start off without a weapon. So the skins you're buying are for weapons that you can potentially find in the battlefield. So you actually can choose different skins for different weapons to depend on the weapons that you prefer finding and actually holding on to in the game, whether it's a sniper rifle, an AK-47, or some other handgun. There are other ways to earn points and items as well, and those are called contracts. What you'll do before you jump into a match is go into the contracts menu and activate up to 3 different contracts. These each have different varied levels of hardness depending on how long you've been playing and what the rotating rolling contracts are. Some of them are time limited. They give you a certain amount of time to do them. Some of them you'll unlock with actual chips. Once you get the chips from the battlefield, those are kind of more usually exclusive, or they'll give you better items, but those can either give you XP, they give you items, they'll give you coins or money to spend in the actual store. Speaking of money spending in the store, you'll see two different types of money. One is RP points and one is coins. Now, you would think the coins would be a microtransaction spend, but it's actually not. Those are just harder to get and more rare, and so those allow you to buy things for less coins. The RP points continually being earned with every match you play, all the kills that you make, and as you do contracts as well. So that's a whole chunk of information, not even talking about the gameplay itself. There's a whole bunch of other customizables, like customizing how your character looks, customizing how your computer pad looks, even how your gamer tag profile looks. And all of these are unlocked by playing the game and getting new skins so you can make your character and customize how you want to look. Now let's jump over to the actual game. When jumping into a game, you can choose either to play as a single player or to play as a squad. Now, if you don't have friends online, you can tell it to fill your squad and you'll end up with normally 2 players. Every once in a while, a lobby won't be full and you'll end up with 2, but most of the time, you're going to get 3 total players on your squad, and you will play with those other 2 players to try to win the Battle Royale game. Now, you can play as a single, but you're still playing against squads. They are testing the ability to actually have a singles match where it's all singles, so that would be a little bit more fair. It's fun to play as a single, and it's actually a lot easier to get closer to the end because you can hide. You're by yourself. A lot of times I'll jump as a single and I'll go to an area that no one else is going to, collect a whole bunch of cool stuff, hopefully try to decode some chips, and I'll use that as an opportunity to get chips that I might not get otherwise and survive as long as possible. It's hard to win that way because you're usually coming up against squads at the end, especially as the ring closes in on you. It'll get a lot more challenging, but it is possible to actually win. Squads is my favorite way to play because you get 2 other players, and it can depend on who you end up with, how well the match actually goes, whether you're playing with new players or you're playing with more advanced players. I've actually had a great experience with all of the players in this game. Very few experiences with anyone that has been nothing but helpful. In fact, none. Everyone that I've talked to has been supportive. They've helped. They've talked me through when I've had issues. They've explained things. It's been a really supportive community already, and I've played a lot of matches. And it's impressive to see just how awesome the community for this game is. So when you start off the game, you're actually going to start off by dropping into a pre-game lobby. This will be where everyone just kind of tries to shoot each other and continually kill each other and drop back in with new weapons to play around with until the game actually starts. Usually it's a minute or 2 that you have to wait as the game populates the players. Once that countdown is done, you'll end up in the aircraft to jump onto the battlefield. Now, it's important to pick where you want to end up based on how many players are jumping out. I tend to wait a little bit to see where people are going to try to tell whether I should jump to a different area or not. 60 people is a lot of people, and even though it's a massive map, you're liable to run into people if you jump to the wrong spot. Just as in other Battle Royale games, you have a safe area where you can actually play, and that changes based on the match, and every match is different. I tend to stay closer to the edge of the barrier just because less people tend to jump there, because then you have to continually be running away from the barrier as it closes. But as that closes, you'll have to move in to the next ring and then the next ring, and you'll be able to see that on your map by grabbing the computer on your chest. Now, this does a lot of things. So let's talk about this computer. This will allow you to actually ping locations by holding it out and clicking the trigger button to point where you're pinging for your teammates. It also activates a HUD style. When you take it off your chest, waypoints will populate around you to tell you where specific things are. You can also find them on your map, but this is where you're going to find things like kiosks or weapons drops and stuff like that. It's also used for activating the kiosks when you get there as well. You'll point it at the kiosk and use it as a cursor to buy insurance, ammunition, or you can actually use it to buy players in your squad back if you have cash. Speaking of cash, let's talk about collectibles, or things that you're going to loot for. Looting is a big part of this game. You're going to loot for cash, ammunition, which I highly recommend finding as much ammo as possible because you do run out if you get in a firefight, and it's not fun. But you'll find weapons attachments, which is really cool as well, and I love the attachment system, putting on a handle or a new red dot scope or whatever you find. You'll also find things like bandages and grenades and other health or reviving type of accessories that you'll need, and those all go on your chest. Speaking of the accessories, before I continue with looting, the slots in your chest are actually really cool. One side on the left is for your grenades and chuckables, and the other side is for things like gauze or armor plates, and that's the other thing you'll find is armor plates. On your screen, when you're playing, you'll see a health bar. The top two bars are the armor that you have, and the bigger bar is your health. As you're getting shot at, you'll lose your armor first, and then you'll start to take damage to your health. Those armor plates that you pick up, you're going to take out of your inventory, and you're going to slide them into your chest. But you don't do that until you've already lost some armor, because otherwise you'll just stand there like an idiot trying to put it in like I did, and it's not doing anything. Now, those slots in your chest are cyclable, so you can actually cycle through those spots to grab what item you need. So when you look down, you'll see the slots, and if it's on the gauze, you'll take it off and you'll wrap it around your wrist to heal yourself or inject yourself with a shot if you need to heal yourself even more, or like I said, with the armored plates. There's also a backpack on your back you can take off. That's where you can grab all of your inventory or see what's in there. You can keep actually things like scopes and different attachments in there as well, which I'd forgotten about at first for some reason, and I was adding stuff to my bag and forgot to look for them. So if you find stuff and you add it to your inventory, don't forget to take your backpack off and share it with your buddies. That's another cool part, is being able to share the components with your squad that you find. Speaking of your squad, as you're playing with your squad, if someone gets knocked down, you'll also be able to revive them using like a reviving shot pen. They'll go down and be kind of like on their butt on the ground. You have to go over to them, grab the revive, and push it into their chest. It'll take a few seconds, and then it'll revive them, allowing them to get back up. That is if they don't get shot after they've already fallen. So you go down, and then you have some time to revive someone unless they're completely knocked out by the opponent that was shooting at them. Working with your squad is one of the best parts of this game, so I highly recommend getting used to talking out how things are going, like whether it's a certain direction or where the enemies are, or sharing ammunition and getting good at communicating with your team. I've run into very few people that don't actually use their mic. In fact, I don't think I've actually had any squads so far that has a person not using a mic, although I'm sure there are people out there that do that. If you don't use a mic, that doesn't mean you can't have fun. It just means it might be harder to actually communicate and win the matches, because it really comes down to communication. The map itself is actually really big, and it's split into different types of sections where you'll get used to as they go, like the cemetery or different specific towns, or like the container area that's like a warehouse area. And a lot of these areas are actually areas that you'll get notified when you get to them, and it'll tell you the rarity of the loot in that area. Now, looting, like I mentioned, is a big deal, and you want to keep that in mind. Not just about getting the stuff you need to win the match, but also looting to bring stuff with you. The chips are important for
unlockables and earning new stuff, so you want to try to keep an eye out for as many chips as possible. You can load up to 3 chips into your computer anytime and allow them to be uploading to your computer so you can decode them when you get back to your home space. Because the maps are so big, I've played a lot of matches, and it changes pretty much every time where I go. Sometimes I'll be in the same area, but it's never the same when it comes to drops and loot, and there's always different people, or sometimes there's not people. You'll go to one area that has a massive firefight once, and the next round you'll go there and it'll be a ghost town and you can loot to your heart's content. Either way, it's super satisfying to come across a squad of people and pick them off from afar with a sniper, or parachute in and drop in and just take them out. Or you know, get taken out yourself, which is probably more common for me. But, you know, as you get better at it, or as I get better at it, maybe you're already really good at that kind of game, that you'll do a lot better. That, to me, is one of the biggest things about this game, is there's always people to play with online from all over the world. I played with a guy from Australia the other day, the UK, some Americans. I played with some awesome people, both from newbies to, you know, experienced. I think one of the best parts about this game is how experienced you can tell that the developers were when they made this game. Contractors was great, but this is something special. The foray into VR for this game feels next generation, in the sense that even though it's not perfect, there's been times when I couldn't take a magazine out, or something odd happened, because it is a game and there can be, you know, things popping up that aren't perfect and bugs will need fixing. This game feels more polished than 95% of what comes out for VR. I don't know. Everything about the game makes me fall in love with it more every time I play it, and I am not an online game player. I've said it on the channel a lot before. If I play, I usually don't use a mic. I'm socially awkward online, and I'm a wuss when it comes to talking to people online normally, which is why I don't do a lot of streaming and a lot of online gaming with the people of the community, which I want to do more of, and I'd love to do it in Contractors Showdown. This game, though, pulls me in enough that I actually want to do that, and I'm trying to get out of my shell because of the game, which is a testament to how fun the game is to play. Visually, it looks pretty good. It's not like the best looking game on Quest, but it still does look good. But this game has the potential to be something very special. Given enough time and enough people playing it, I think if they continue to update things, we get some, you know, limited time events, things like other Battle Royale games do, like seasons and map adjustments, and in the future, maybe new maps. There's a lot of potential to this, and I see this going a long ways for a long time, and I'm very excited to personally be a part of what this game is and continue to play it.